and someone tells you, oh, that's why your chest is small, fuck them.
Yeah, buddy. Lightweight, baby!
What's up, guys? I'm Josh and I lift things, and I'm here to talk about how many reps to build muscle. Does the magic rep range for hypertrophy exist? Too long didn't watch, do somewhere between like 5 to 30 reps in order to optimally build muscle. We've all heard it before. 5 reps and under will only build strength and power, no muscle. 8 to 12 will only build muscle, no strength. Anything past 15 reps will only build up endurance. This is, for lack of a better word, complete horseshit. Before I get into the rep range bit, let me give you a very basic and oversimplified and dumbed down version on how muscle is built. The main thing that drives hypertrophy is mechanical tension and metabolic stress, along with stuff like muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein degradation. To keep it basic, the main difference between mechanical tension and metabolic fatigue is the same inverse relationship between intensity and volume. As intensity goes up, or the percentage of your 1 rep max that you are lifting, volume has to go down. Think about it. As weights get heavier, you can't press it the same amount of times as you would a lighter weight. In the same vein, as intensity goes up, as does mechanical tension, and that reduces volume. In the same vein, reduces metabolic fatigue. No, it's not that these rep ranges are complete horseshit. I mean, that's kind of the beauty of bro science and charlatans and horseshit slingers everywhere. They take these little modicum of truth or these half-truths and then they oversimplify them and weaponize them against you. Yes, it probably is more effective to train in lower rep ranges to build strength. It's going to be more conducive to you to train in higher rep ranges to build endurance. But let's look a little bit further into this. Shout out Stronger by Science, shout out Greg. I am always ripping off your articles, but they are some of the best summaries of these intense questions. So thank you for all the work that you do. I'll pay you all the ad money I get. 0. So the hypertrophy rep range, fact or fiction? This will be all linked down below, so I'm just going to summarize and go over most of the key points. When looking at the whole body of scientific literature, there's simply not a very big difference in muscle growth when comparing different rep ranges. From a practical standpoint, you should probably do most of your training in the rep range that allows you to get in the most hard sets per training session and per week for each exercise you use and each muscle you train. This generally coincides with a moderate intensity and rep range for most exercises and most people. Since different rep ranges go about triggering a growth response in slightly different ways, you're probably better off training with the full spectrum of rep ranges instead of rigidly staying at a single rep. So to give some basic definitions, when he says heavier low rep, he's generally talking about loads in excess of 85% of your 1 rep max for sets of 5 or fewer. When talking about moderate weights, he's talking about 60 to 85% of your 1 rep max for sets of 6 to 15 reps. When we're talking about lighter weights, he's generally talking about loads less than 60% of your 1 rep max for sets of 15 reps or more. So you can think of this as the bro science strength rep range, hypertrophy rep range, and endurance rep range. So these next 2 charts compare the average results of the groups training in the hypertrophy range of 6 to 15 reps per set to the average results of all the participants in the study. If it's higher than this line, it means it did better. If it's lower than this line, it means they did worse. So studies comparing low and moderate reps are on the left, and those comparing moderate and high reps are on the right. So when using the adjusted values, there is effectively no difference in this comparison. Low reps outperform the study means by 1% on average compared to moderate reps, and moderate reps outperform the study means by 1% on average compared to high reps. As you can see, though, most of the studies cluster in the plus or minus 20% range. Here's a great chart, and please share this around to people who start to talk about this. What people think as far as rep ranges and training outcomes go. 8 to 12 is pure size. Anything less, hardly any. Anything more, hardly any. 15 plus, pure endurance. Anything less, not really. Anything more is pure strength. You get the idea. What actually happens? It is much, much more blended and pretty much even across the board, barring any extreme outliers. Of course, when you're training for 1 rep, you're not going to be getting that much endurance work. You're doing 1 rep. Of course, when you're doing a weight that you can do for 15 plus reps, it's not going to be very heavy. Now, to appease some other people, here we have, is there a hypertrophy rep range? Practically, in all likelihood. That doesn't mean you should do all of your training here. The main idea being is all of these different forms of training will result in growth in slightly different ways. So in order to optimize your training, you should probably use all different types of rep ranges or intensities and volume amounts in order to get a nice blend of everything to get all the different ways to grow, growing. And keep in mind, we have to talk about some things here. When someone says strength, what are they talking about? If you bench 225 pounds 5 times, and then you're able to bench it 6 times, did your strength go up? Maybe your 1 rep max barely increased, but you increased your total amount of reps by about 20%. That is a significant boost in strength. If you are someone who trains entirely in the 8 to 12 rep range, maybe you add a rep every single day, every week until you get to 12, and then you drop back down to 8 reps and then add weight, you got stronger. You are pressing more weight. So clearly your 8 to 12 rep range resulted in strength. For another anecdotal point, let's look at any power lifter. If they have a massive bench, do you think they're going to have small triceps? Small chest, small shoulders? If they're squatting 700 pounds, do they have small legs? Obviously, yes, you can choose to hyper optimize and hyper focus on one rep range, and you won't get all the benefits of doing some other stuff. But that's not the point. When people say that there's a magic rep range, you only grow in the 8 to 12, they are lying. They have a solid misunderstanding of biomechanics and kinesiology and physiology and any other ology you can think of. They are an idiot. And if they're trying to sell you something, they're a charlatan. Look at all of the studies that you can find. You will find that pretty much a good range for building muscle, if that's your only goal, will happen pretty equally from 5 to 30 reps per set. There are ideas or reasons on why you should keep them a little bit lower, and 30 would be not low. For instance, it could be harder to take a muscle to actual muscle failure if you're doing such high reps. You could be more limited by your cardiovascular system. You just get too tired to perform the full set, not from muscle fatigue, but because you are too winded. Your lactic acid threshold. You could be getting too much of a burn, but not actually be close to muscle failure. It could be mental fatigue or stress. You just don't have the grit to push through a set that lasts that long. On the other side of the same coin, you probably don't want to train something like a preacher curl for a 1 rep max. You are putting your tendons and your joints and your soft tissue in a disadvantaged position, which could be very dangerous on very heavy loads. And finally, I would just like to say, do what interests you. If you get bored as all hell training in the 8 to 12 rep range for all of your compound movements, you're not going to want to train that long. It's going to be harder to wake up and want to go to the gym. Your discipline will be tested even more. So do what you enjoy. If you enjoy doing hard, heavy sets of 5, and someone tells you, oh, that's why your chest is small, fuck them. Go on, continue benching, do what you have to do that is interesting to you in order to stay in the gym. And it may behoove you to use a mixture of rep ranges depending on the muscle group or your certain training block or anything else in order to try to drive every single way to grow a muscle. And guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this style of content, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, maybe share to a buddy, maybe leave a comment down below. It really helps out the channel, and I respond to every single one of them. If you really want to help me out, you can follow all the socials that you've seen on screen this entire time. They'll be linked down in the description. I post exclusive content there whenever I feel like it. It's not been that often, to be honest, but go follow anyways. If you want to ask me any questions, join the Discord, post on the subreddit. I will be there waiting for you. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.